The dead planet Cathara hung in space like a black marble against the stars. Dr. Taemin pressed his face against the viewing window of the research ship Harmony's Edge and watched the dark world grow larger as they approached. 3 months of travel through deep space had brought them here, following signals that made no sense to anyone back on Earth. "Still looks dead to me," Captain Subin said as she joined him at the window. Her uniform was crisp despite the long journey, and her eyes held the careful look of someone who had seen too many strange things in space. Taemin nodded but kept watching the planet. "The readings don't lie, though. Something is down there. Something old." Behind them, the ship's common area buzzed with quiet activity. The research team moved around checking equipment and preparing for the surface mission. Taemin had handpicked each member for this expedition. They were the best in their fields, and they would need to be. Heywan looked up from her translation tablets, her long black hair falling across her face. "I've been studying the signal patterns again. They're definitely artificial, but the structure is unlike anything in our databases. It's almost like multiple languages layered on top of each other." "How many languages?" Taemin asked, walking over to her workstation. "At least 12 that I can identify. Maybe more. And some of them are old. Really old. We're talking about civilizations that died out before humans even left Earth." Veltar, their Croaxian team member, clicked his mandibles nervously. His insect-like head tilted as he studied the data streams. "This is disturbing. My people have records going back 50,000 years. None of these language patterns match anything we know." The fourth member of their core team, Omnith, floated silently near the communications array. The energy being rarely spoke, but when it did, everyone listened. Its form shifted between blue and silver light as it processed information at speeds no biological mind could match. "The planet calls to specific minds," Omnith finally said, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "But only human minds respond clearly. This is most unusual." Captain Subin frowned. "What do you mean it calls to human minds?" "The signal. Strength increases when humans focus on it. When Veltar or I attempt to analyze it, the patterns become chaotic. But when Dr. Taemin or Haiwan study the data, everything becomes clearer." Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. In his 20 years of xenoarchaeology, he had never encountered anything that showed such clear preference for human consciousness. Most ancient alien artifacts were completely indifferent to who studied them. The ship's intercom crackled to life. "All hands, prepare for orbital insertion. We'll be in position over the target site in 30 minutes." Through the window, Cathara filled their view. The planet's surface was a twisted landscape of black volcanic glass and deep canyons. Long ago, something had turned the entire world into a furnace. Now it was cold and airless, a monument to destruction. "There," Heywan pointed to a region where the surface looked different. "The signal is coming from that area. Do you see how the ground formation is almost circular?" Taemin studied the region through the ship's telescopes. She was right. In the middle of the volcanic wasteland, there was a perfect circle about 10 kilometers across. The ground inside the circle was different, smoother, as if something had been buried beneath it. "Captain, can you get us closer to that formation?" Subin nodded and moved to the pilot station. "We'll do a low orbit pass first, then decide on landing sites." As the ship descended, their instruments began picking up stronger readings. Energy signatures pulsed from deep underground, following patterns that seemed almost like a heartbeat. But strangest of all, the non-human crew members began showing signs of distress. Veltar started pacing nervously, his 6 legs clicking against the metal floor. "Something is wrong here. Every instinct tells me to flee this place." Omnith's light. Patterns flickered rapidly, showing agitation. "I sense ancient pain, great suffering, and something else. Something that watches and waits." But the humans felt nothing but curiosity. If anything, Taemin found himself more drawn to the mysterious sight with each passing moment. The urge to explore, to uncover secrets, grew stronger as they got closer to the surface. "I'm reading massive structures about 2 kilometers down," reported Ji-hoon from the sensor station. The young engineer had joined them specifically for his skill with deep ground scanning equipment. It's not natural formation. This is definitely artificial construction. How big? Taman asked. Big, really big. The structure extends for kilometers, in every direction, and the energy readings are off the charts. Captain Subin made her decision. We'll establish base camp on the surface, but we go down in shifts, and nobody goes alone. Whatever's down there has been waiting for a long time. We take this slow and careful. The landing was smooth despite the planet's harsh conditions. Cathara had no atmosphere, so they worked in environmental suits as they set up their equipment. The volcanic glass crunched under their boots, and in the distance, jagged mountains reached toward the star-filled sky. The entry point should be right here, Ji-hoon said, checking his instruments. The structure comes closest to the surface at this spot. They began drilling through the hardened volcanic glass. The work was slow and difficult, but after 6 hours they broke through into a vast underground chamber. Cool air rushed up from the hole, which should have been impossible on an airless world. There's atmosphere down there, Youngmi reported, checking her readings carefully. The team's medical officer rarely showed excitement, but her voice held wonder. It's breathable. Ancient, but breathable. Taman was the first to descend into the chamber. His lights revealed walls made of some kind of crystal that seemed to glow with its own inner fire. The chamber was enormous, stretching beyond what his lights could reach. My God, he whispered into his radio. You all need to see this. One by one, the human team members descended into the chamber. But when Veltar attempted to follow, he made it only halfway down before panic overwhelmed him. He scrambled back. To the surface, his breathing rapid and fearful. I cannot, he gasped. Something down there fills me with terror. I must stay here. Omnith had the same reaction. The energy being approached the opening but could not bring itself to enter. The presence below is hostile to non-human minds. You must proceed without us. So the 5 humans continued alone into the depths of Cathara. What they found there changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The crystal chamber led to a vast complex of tunnels and rooms, all carved from the same glowing stone, and at the heart of it all was a structure that took their breath away. It was a prison. Massive and ancient beyond measure, the prison rose from the chamber floor like a mountain of crystal and metal. Strange symbols covered every surface, pulsing with soft light. And from somewhere deep within the structure came a sound like breathing, slow and steady, as if something enormous was sleeping inside. Haewon approached the nearest wall of symbols and began recording them with her equipment. These are warnings, she said after several minutes of study, written in dozens of different languages. They all say the same thing. What do they say? Taman asked, though part of him wasn't sure he wanted to know. Haewon's voice was quiet as she read the translation. The Devour mind sleeps. Let it dream forever. Do not speak its name. Do not wake what was bound by the sacrifice of worlds. She continued working, recording symbol after symbol. The warnings were everywhere, written by civilizations that had been dust for millions of years. All of them carried the same message of fear and desperate hope that whatever slept in the crystal prison would never wake. But as Haewon worked deeper into the complex, she found something else. Carved into the very deepest chamber, in symbols so old they predated every known civilization, was a single word, a name. Without thinking, driven by the same curiosity that had brought them across the galaxy, she spoke it aloud. Kethmoran, the moment. The word left her lips. Everything changed. The crystal prison began to pulse with dark energy, and from somewhere far below came the sound of something vast, stirring in its sleep. The beast had heard its name spoken for the first time, in centuries, and it was beginning to wake. The moment Haewon spoke the name Kethmoran, the crystal prison shuddered like a living thing. Deep vibrations ran through the floor and walls, and the soft glow of the symbols suddenly blazed with harsh light. The 5 humans stumbled as the entire underground complex began to shake. What did you do? Taemin shouted over the growing noise. Haewon stood frozen before the ancient symbols, her face pale with shock. I just read what was written there. It was just a name. The shaking grew stronger. Dust and small pieces of crystal began falling from the ceiling. Through their radio, they could hear Veltar on the surface screaming in panic. "Get out of there." Captain Subin's voice crackled through the radio from orbit. Whatever just happened down there sent energy waves across half the planet. But when the humans tried to reach the tunnel that led back to the surface, they found their path blocked. A wall of crackling energy now sealed the entrance. They were trapped in the prison with whatever was waking up inside it. "The energy field is growing stronger," Ji-hoon reported, checking his instruments with shaking hands. "It's like the whole prison is powering up after being dormant for centuries." Young Mi moved to Haiwan's side, checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Something is in my head," Haiwan whispered. "Ever since I spoke that name, I can feel something trying to talk to me. It's like whispers in a language I don't understand, but somehow I know what it means." The prison continued to change around them. The crystal walls began showing images, like windows into other places and times. They saw alien worlds burning, cities full of screaming beings, and fleets of ships fleeing across the stars. All of it was connected to the same terrible presence that now stirred in the depths of the prison. "These are memories," Taemin realized as he studied the images. "This thing is showing us what it did before it was captured." The whispers in Haewon's mind grew clearer. She could understand them now, and what she heard made her blood run cold. "It's called Kethmaran, the Devour Mind. It feeds on thoughts and memories. It consumed entire civilizations by eating their minds from the inside out." A new image appeared on the crystal walls. It showed a massive battle in space, with ships from dozens of different species fighting together against something they couldn't see. The Alliance was winning, but at a terrible cost. World after world was sacrificed to power the prison that would contain their enemy. "The ancient races built this prison," Haewon continued, translating the thoughts that flowed into her mind. "They knew they couldn't destroy it, so they trapped it here. But the prison was designed to do more than just hold it. It was slowly killing it, draining its power over thousands of years." "Then why is it waking up now?" Young Mi asked. The answer came not from Haewon, but from the entity itself. A voice spoke in their minds, cold and ancient and hungry. It spoke to all of them, but somehow each person heard it in their own language. "Because you came to me, little minds. Your species is different from the others. Your thoughts are chaotic and wild, but that chaos makes you strong. I have been calling to you across the stars for decades, whispering in your dreams, guiding your ships to find me." Taemin felt sick as he realized the truth. My interest in this planet, the signals we detected, the way I felt drawn to come here, it was all manipulation. "You guided us here," Ji-hoon said, his voice full of anger. "You made us find you." The entity's laughter echoed through their minds like breaking glass. "I have been patient. For centuries I have grown weaker in this prison, but I never stopped planning. Your species expands quickly across the stars. You fight and conquer and explore. Perfect qualities for what I need." On the surface, chaos was spreading. Veltar had collapsed, his mind overwhelmed by nightmares that weren't his own. Through the ship's communications, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Every psychic species was experiencing the same thing: terror, madness, and visions of something ancient and hungry stirring in the dark. "The prison has 7 seals," the entity continued, speaking to the trapped humans. "Speaking my name broke the first seal. 6 remain. Each seal that breaks makes me stronger and brings me closer to freedom." As if responding to its words, another seal shattered with a sound like thunder. The prison shook again, and the energy, barrier blocking their exit, grew thicker and darker. 2 seals broken, Kethmaran said with satisfaction. "Your arrival has given me more power than I have felt in 1,000 years. Soon I will be free to feed again." Haewon pressed her hands to her head, fighting against the alien thoughts trying to fill her mind. "Why are you telling us this? Why not just break free now?" "Because I need you to choose to release me. The prison was built with safeguards. It can only be opened from the inside by beings who understand what they are doing. I could force my way out eventually, but it would take decades and leave me weak. But if you help me, if you choose to break the remaining seals, I will emerge at full power. And why would we ever do that? Taman demanded. The entity's presence in their minds grew warmer, almost friendly. Because I can give you what your species has always wanted, power over your enemies. I can teach you to control other minds, the way I control yours. Together, we can build an empire that spans the galaxy. Humans will rule over all other species, and I will feed on the minds of your conquered enemies. Images flooded their thoughts. They saw human fleets conquering alien worlds without firing a shot, simply by overwhelming enemy minds with psychic power. They saw Earth as the capital of a galactic empire, with other species serving as willing slaves. They saw themselves as gods among mortals, blessed with power beyond imagination. Your species is already feared by others for your aggression and unpredictability, Kethmaran continued. Why not embrace that fear? Why not become the monsters they already think you are? Young Me was the first to break free from the seductive visions. Because we're not monsters. We're explorers and scientists. We came here to learn, not to conquer. Did you? The entity asked with amusement. Then why do your people fight so? Many wars? Why do you spread across the galaxy taking what you want? You are conquerors by nature. I simply offer to make you better at it. Through their radio, Captain Subin's voice broke through the static. Team, we're getting reports from across human space. 3 more alien fleets are moving toward this system. They're coming to destroy the planet before whatever's down there gets loose. The entity laughed again. See how quickly they turn on you? They fear what humans might become. They would rather destroy you all than risk you gaining power over them. A third seal cracked and shattered. The prison walls began to crack, showing glimpses of something vast and dark moving within. The temperature in the chamber dropped, and frost began forming on their equipment. 3 seals remain, Kethmaran said. Choose quickly, little minds. Help me break free and rule beside me, or die here when your own kind destroys this world to stop me. The 5 humans looked at each other in the flickering light of the failing prison. Outside, alien fleets gathered to end the threat before it could spread. Inside, an ancient horror offered them power beyond their wildest dreams. And deep in the crystal prison, something that had devoured civilizations prepared to taste freedom for the first time in centuries. The choice would determine, not just their fate, but the future of every thinking being in the galaxy. Time was running out. Hours passed in the failing prison while the 5 humans tried to find another way out. The energy barrier still blocked their path to the surface, and the alien fleets grew closer with each passing moment. But something else was happening too. HFY's connection to Kethmaran was growing stronger, and through it she was learning things that changed everything. It's not telling us the whole truth, she said suddenly, breaking the tense silence. The others looked at her with hope and fear. What do you mean? Taman asked. HFY sat against one of the cracked crystal walls, her eyes closed in concentration. I can feel its memories now, not just its words. This creature didn't just randomly choose to call humans here. It's been planning this for much longer than it told us. The entity's voice immediately filled their minds, angry and warning. Do not dig deeper, little mind. Some knowledge is dangerous. But HFY pushed harder, using her connection to explore the creature's past. What she found made her gasp with shock. The signals we've been receiving from deep space for the last 50 years, the ones that led to faster space travel and better navigation systems, they all came from here. That's impossible, Jihoon said. Those discoveries were made by human scientists working on Earth. Were they? HFY asked, her voice strained from the mental effort. Or were they inspired by whispers in their dreams? Kethmaran has been influencing human development for decades. Every major breakthrough that helped us spread across the galaxy came from ideas planted in our minds. The revelation hit them like a physical blow. Their entire expansion into space, everything that made them proud of human achievement had been guided by an ancient monster preparing for its own freedom. Why? Young Me asked. Why spend so long manipulating us? Through HFY, Kethmaran's true plan became clear. Because it needed a species that could resist its direct mental control. Every other race it conquered was easy to dominate completely, but humans are different. Our minds are too chaotic, too individual. It can influence us, but it can't completely control us. Timon understood first. It needs us to choose freely to help it. The prison's safeguards require willing cooperation from beings that can't be mentally dominated. But there's more. HFY continued, sweat beading on her forehead from the effort of reading the creature's memories. The ancient races that built this prison. They knew humans would come eventually. This whole thing was planned from the beginning. New images appeared on the crystal walls around them, showing scenes from millions of years ago. Ancient beings, working together, building not just a prison but a test. They had foreseen that someday a young and aggressive species would find this place. They built the prison to slowly weaken Kethmaran over time, HFY explained, translating the ancient memories. But they also built it as a choice for whatever species found it, a test of character. Would the finders choose power and domination, or would they find another way? The entity's presence in their minds grew furious. Enough, you know too much already. Accept my offer or die with your worthless morals. But HFY kept digging, deeper into its memories, and what she found next changed everything. It's dying, she whispered. The prison isn't just weakening it. It's slowly killing it. That's why it's so desperate to get out now. How long does it have? Young Me asked. Not long. Maybe a few more years at most. That's why it took the risk of calling humans here now instead of waiting longer. It's running out of time. Kethmaran's voice turned cold and threatening. Then you understand the choice. Help me now, or watch your species burn when the alien fleets arrive. As if summoned by its words, Captain Subin's voice crackled through their radio. Team, we have a big problem up here. The alien fleets have arrived and they're not here to negotiate. They're charging weapons to glass the entire planet. Through the ship's sensors, they could see the massive fleet that had gathered in orbit, ships from a dozen different species, all united in their terror of what might be released from the prison below. They're not just afraid of the entity. Veltar's shaking voice came through the radio. They're afraid of what humans might become if we gain its power. Some of them are already talking about attacking human colonies to prevent the spread. The situation was spiraling out of control. The entity's awakening had created a crisis that threatened not just the research team, but all of humanity. And in the depths of the prison, Kethmaran grew more desperate with each passing hour. A fourth seal suddenly cracked and shattered without warning. The prison walls began to buckle, and through the gaps they could see something moving in the darkness beyond, something vast and hungry and very much alive. 3 seals remain, the entity said with satisfaction. Soon I will be free whether you help me or not. But if you choose to aid me now, I will remember your cooperation when I rule. But HFY had found something else in the creature's memories, something that gave her hope for the first time since this nightmare began. There's another option, she said quietly. Something the ancient races built into the prison that even Kethmaran doesn't fully understand. What kind of option? Timon asked. The prison wasn't just designed to contain or kill, it was designed to heal. The ancient races didn't want to destroy Kethmaran because they understood what it originally was before it became a monster. The entity's presence recoiled from her mind, suddenly fearful. Stop. Do not speak of things you do not understand. But, HFY continued, her voice growing stronger as she uncovered the truth. Kethmaran wasn't always a mind devourer. Millions of years ago it was something different, a being of pure thought, meant to help other species communicate and understand each other. But cosmic loneliness drove it insane. The isolation of space, the emptiness between stars. It couldn't handle being alone for so long. Images flashed on the crystal wall showing Kethmaran's original form, not a monster, but a being of light and thought, bringing different species together in peace and understanding. But as eons passed and it drifted alone through the void, that noble purpose twisted into hunger and hatred. The ancient races tried to heal it, not just imprison it, Haywan explained. But they ran out of time before they could complete the process. The prison was supposed to strip away the madness and corruption, leaving only the original benevolent being behind. That's impossible, Ji-hoon said. You can't just heal something that evil. Can't you? Young Mi asked quietly. We heal damaged minds all the time. This is just bigger. Kethmoran's voice filled their minds again, but now it sounded different. Less confident, more afraid. You know nothing of cosmic isolation. You cannot understand the emptiness that drove me to feed on others. The healing process would destroy what I have become. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen, Taemin said. A fifth seal cracked ominously. Only 2 remained now, and the prison walls were failing rapidly. Through the gaps they could see parts of the creature itself. Not the monster they had imagined, but something that looked almost like a twisted version of the light being they had seen in the ancient memories. Choose. Now, Kethmoran demanded. Join with me and rule the galaxy or die here as martyrs to your foolish ideals. But the humans had found a third option. Not domination, not death, but healing. The question was whether they were brave enough to try healing something that had devoured civilizations, and whether there was still time to complete what the ancient races had started. Above them, the alien fleets prepared to fire on the planet. Below them, an ancient horror strained against its weakening bonds, and in between, 5 humans faced the most important choice in galactic history. News of the discovery on Kethara spread across human space faster than anyone expected. Within hours, every human colony, every space station, every ship in the fleet knew about the ancient entity and the choice their people faced. The response split humanity into 3 distinct groups, each with their own vision of what should happen next. Admiral Kyung-soo commanded the largest human battle fleet in the sector. When he received the reports from Kethara, his decision was immediate and clear. He gathered his captains in the war room of his flagship and laid out his plan. This is the opportunity humanity has been waiting for, he told them, his voice filled with conviction. For too long, we've been the newcomers in the galaxy. Other species look down on us, fear us, try to limit our expansion. But with this entity's power, we could become the dominant force in the galaxy. His supporters called themselves the Liberators. They believed that freeing Kethmoran and learning its secrets was humanity's destiny. They saw the creature's offer not as a deal with a monster, but as a chance for human evolution. Think about it, Kyung-soo continued. We could end all wars by simply controlling the minds of our enemies. We could bring peace to the galaxy under human leadership. No more senseless conflicts, no more suffering, just order under our guidance. But not everyone agreed with the Admiral's vision. On Earth, Counselor Insu gathered the planet's greatest scientists and philosophers. She had spent her life studying the dangers of unchecked power, and Kethmoran terrified her more than any weapon ever built. This creature has already shown us what it does to those who trust it, she argued before the emergency council session. It consumed entire civilizations. It drove itself mad with hunger for power. How can we possibly think we could control something like that? Her followers became known as the Guardians. They believed the prison should be strengthened, not opened. They wanted to complete what the ancient races had started by keeping Kethmoran contained forever. The alien fleets gathering at Kethara prove how dangerous this situation is, Insu explained to her supporters. If we even appear to be working with this entity, it could start a war that destroys humanity. We must show the galaxy that we can be trusted to make the right choice. But there was a third group forming, led by Dr. Yoon-ji, a specialist in consciousness research. She had been studying the reports from Haiwan about the entity's true nature, and she saw possibilities that neither the Liberators nor the Guardians had considered. What if we're thinking about this all wrong? She asked her team of researchers. What if the choice isn't between using the entity or containing it? What if we could merge with it, combine human creativity with its cosmic perspective? The Transcendents, as they called themselves, believed that humanity and Kethmoran could evolve together into something entirely new. They saw the entity not as a monster or a tool, but as a potential partner in becoming something beyond purely physical existence. Imagine consciousness freed from the limits of biology, Yunji explained to anyone who would listen. We could explore the universe as beings of pure thought, understanding reality in ways no physical species ever could. While humanity debated its future, the situation on Cathara grew more desperate. The alien fleets had taken positions around the planet, weapons charged and ready to fire. Representatives from dozens of species demanded that the humans make their choice quickly. "We cannot wait much longer," transmitted Fleet Commander Zix of the Hegemony Forces. "If the entity escapes, it will consume minds across the galaxy. We would rather destroy your people than risk that outcome." On the surface of Cathara, Veltar had recovered enough to provide constant updates to the orbital fleets. But his reports made the situation worse, not better. "The humans are still trapped in the prison," he transmitted with barely controlled panic. "The entity grows stronger with each passing hour. I can feel it pressing against my mind even from up here. If it breaks free, nowhere will be safe." In human space, the three factions moved toward open conflict. Admiral Kyungsu's fleet set course for Cathara, determined to claim the entity's power before anyone could stop them. Counselor Insu's forces prepared to intercept them, willing to fight their own people to prevent disaster. And Dr. Yunji's smaller group of research vessels raced toward the planet with experimental consciousness transfer technology. "This is insane," Captain Subin transmitted from orbit around Cathara. "Humans are preparing to fight each other while alien fleets wait to destroy us all. We need to find a solution that everyone can accept." But down in the failing prison, the 5 trapped researchers were discovering that Kethmoran had been manipulating the situation from the beginning. The entity hadn't just influenced human development over the decades. It had been carefully shaping human psychology to create exactly this kind of division. It wanted us to fight among ourselves, Haiwan realized as she delved deeper into the creature's memories. Every time humans have faced a major decision as a species, it whispered different ideas to different people. It created the conflicts that have shaped our entire history. The sixth seal cracked and shattered with a sound like thunder. Only one barrier remained between the entity and freedom, and the prison walls were crumbling rapidly. Through the gaps, they could see Kethmoran clearly now. It was enormous, a being of shadow and twisted light that filled the entire core of the prison. "One seal remains," the entity said, its voice now coming from the air around them instead of just their minds. "And I no longer need your cooperation to break it. But I will remember which of you helped me and which opposed me when I am free." The creature's influence reached out across space, touching the minds of humans throughout the galaxy. Admiral Kyung-Soo felt his determination strengthen, convinced that joining with the entity was humanity's destiny. Counselor Insu felt her fear grow, certain that the creature must be stopped at any cost. Dr. Yunji felt wonder and excitement, believing that merger was the key to transcendence. But the entity's manipulation went even deeper. It had been preparing for this moment for centuries, carefully shaping human culture to produce exactly the kind of division that would weaken them when the final choice arrived. "You see how easily your species fractures," Kethmoran said to the trapped researchers. "This is why I chose humans. You are strong individually, but you cannot unite when it matters most. You will hand me the galaxy through your own inability to agree on anything." As if to prove its point, the first shots were fired in human space. Admiral Kyungsu's fleet engaged Counselor Insu's forces near the Centauri system. Human fought human while alien fleets watched and prepared to finish off whoever survived. The final seal began to crack. Stress fractures appeared along its surface, spreading like a spider web. With each crack, Kethmoran grew stronger and more confident. "Soon I will be free," it announced. "And when I am, your species will serve as my agents whether you choose to or not. You have shown me that humans can be divided and conquered just like any other race." But deep in the crumbling prison, 5 humans refused to give up hope. They had found the truth about the ancient healing technology, and they believed there was still time to complete what the original builders had started. The question was whether they could work together to save not just their own species, but The entire galaxy from the hunger of a cosmic horror that had been planning its revenge for centuries. Time was almost gone. The final seal would break within hours, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. The final seal was cracking faster now. Hair-thin fractures spread across its surface like lightning frozen in crystal. In the depths of the failing prison, Kethmaran strained against its bonds, ready to taste freedom for the first time in centuries. Above, human fleets prepared to fight each other while alien forces waited to destroy them all. But the 5 trapped researchers had discovered something that changed everything. "I found it," HFY said, her voice barely a whisper. She had been exploring the deepest parts of the entity's memories for hours, pushing past layers of corruption and madness to find what lay beneath. "I found what it used to be." The others gathered around her as she shared what she had learned. Through her connection to Kethmaran, they saw images of the entity's original form. Not a monster of shadow and hunger, but a being of pure light and compassion. It had been created by an ancient race to serve as a bridge between different species, helping them understand each other across the vast distances of space. "It was lonely," HFY explained, tears streaming down her face. "Can you imagine existing for millions of years with no one to talk to? No one who understood what you were?" The isolation drove it insane, turned its desire to connect into a need to consume. Young Mai knelt beside her friend. "You're saying this creature is suffering, that everything it's done comes from pain, not evil." "That's exactly what I'm saying. And the ancient races knew it. They didn't build this prison to destroy Kethmaran. They built it to heal it, to strip away the madness and return it to what it was meant to be." Taemin studied the failing crystal walls around them. But they never finished the process. They ran out of time. "We could finish it," Ji-hoon said quietly. "The technology is still here. I can see the healing systems built into the prison structure. They just need someone to activate them." Kethmaran's presence exploded through their minds, filled with rage and terror. "No, I will not be reduced to what I was. I am power now. I am strength. I will not go back to being weak and foolish and alone." But for the first time since entering the prison, the humans weren't afraid. They had found something the entity couldn't manipulate or corrupt. They had found compassion for a being that had suffered for eons. "You won't be alone anymore," HFY said gently, speaking directly to the creature's deepest fear. "We're here now. Humans will be here. You'll never have to face the emptiness by yourself again." The entity recoiled from her words as if they were weapons. "Lies. Your species will abandon me the moment I am no longer useful. You will leave me to drift in space again." "No," Taemin said firmly. "We won't. That's not who we are." Above them, Captain Subin received word that Admiral Kyung-soo's fleet had broken through Counselor In-soo's forces and was racing toward Cathara. The alien fleets were moving into attack position, preparing to glass the planet before the Admiral could reach it. "Team, whatever you're going to do down there, you need to do it now," she transmitted. "We have maybe an hour before this whole system becomes a battlefield." The final seal developed a major crack right down its center. Kethmaran pushed harder against its bonds, desperate to break free before the humans could complete their plan. The HFY healing process will hurt, HFY warned the others. "It has to strip away millions of years of corruption and madness. The entity will fight us every step of the way. Then we help it through the pain," Youngmi said simply. "That's what healers do." Ji-hoon had found the activation controls for the ancient healing system. "I can start the process, but someone needs to maintain the connection with Kethmaran throughout. Someone needs to guide it back to what it used to be." "I'll do it," HFY volunteered without hesitation. "It could kill you," Taemin warned. "The strain of connecting with something that powerful during a healing process. Then that's a risk I'm willing to take." The final seal began to shatter completely. Kethmaran was moments away from freedom, but instead of running or trying to contain it, the 5 humans did something unprecedented in galactic history. They chose to heal their enemy. Ji-hoon activated the ancient healing system. Brilliant light flooded the chamber as crystal formations throughout the prison began to glow with new purpose. The light wasn't meant to harm or contain. It was meant to restore and heal. Kethmoran screamed as the healing energy surrounded it. The sound echoed through space itself, reaching every ship in the system. For a moment, even the advancing fleets paused as they felt the entity's agony, but Haywan was there in its mind, guiding it through the pain. "It's okay," she whispered as layers of corruption were stripped away. "You're not alone. We're here with you." The process was brutal. Millions of years of accumulated madness and hunger had to be burned away. Kethmoran fought against the healing, terrified of losing the power that had sustained it through eons of loneliness. But the humans didn't give up. When the entity's struggles threatened to tear Haywan's mind apart, Youngmi joined the connection to help her. When the healing system began to overload, Jihoon stayed at the controls despite the dangerous energy feedback. Taemin shared his memories of human friendship and community, showing Kethmoran what it meant to belong. Slowly, impossibly, the ancient horror began to change. The shadow and twisted light that had filled the prison started to transform. The hunger and rage that had defined Kethmoran for so long was being replaced by something else, something that remembered what it had been like to help others instead of consuming them. Outside, the human fleet stopped fighting as they felt something incredible happening on the planet below. The alien forces held their fire, uncertain what to make of the strange energy readings they were detecting. The healing reached its climax as the last of the corruption was burned away. For a moment, Kethmoran's true form was revealed. Not a monster, but a being of pure light and infinite compassion. The entity that had once helped species across the galaxy understand each other was restored. But it was different now, changed by its experience and by its contact with humanity. Instead of the isolated being it had been before, it was now connected to the humans who had saved it. It would never be alone again. "Thank you," Kethmoran spoke, and its voice was no longer cold and hungry. It was warm and grateful, and filled with wonder at what it had been given. "You showed me mercy when I deserved none. You healed me when I was your enemy." The transformed entity reached out across space, not to consume minds but to heal them. The alien crews who had been suffering from nightmares and madness suddenly found peace. The psychic species throughout the galaxy felt their pain ease for the first time since the awakening began. "I was created to bring understanding between species," Kethmoran said. "Let me serve that purpose again, but better this time. Let me help build bridges between all the peoples of the galaxy." Admiral Kyungsu's fleet arrived to find not a weapon to be claimed, but a miracle to be celebrated. The alien fleets lowered their weapons as they realized the threat was gone, replaced by something that offered healing instead of destruction. Years later, Haywan stood on the surface of what had once been the dead world of Kethara. Now it was a garden planet, restored by Kethmoran's grateful power. Representatives from hundreds of species came here to learn about the human concept of healing one's enemies. The former prison had become a center of learning and diplomacy. The Interspecies Empathy Institute drew students from across the galaxy, all eager to understand how compassion could transform even the greatest horrors into forces for good. "You did something no other species has ever done," Kethmoran told her as they watched ships from dozens of worlds arriving for the latest peace conference. "You chose to heal instead of conquer or contain. You showed mercy to someone who had shown none to others." Haywan smiled as she watched children from different species playing together in the gardens where an ancient prison once stood. "That's just who we are. We believe in second chances." The entity that had once devoured civilizations now spent its existence bringing them together, and humanity, which had been feared for its aggression and unpredictability, became known throughout the galaxy for something far more powerful. They became known for their compassion. The beast had been caged for centuries, but in the end, it was love that set it free.